Title: The Shadow in the Cartel. In the labyrinthine world of Mexico's drug empire, where loyalty is fragile and betrayal is deadly, there was a shadow that moved unnoticed, weaving through the heart of the Sinaloa Cartel like a whisper in the wind. His name was Agent Javier Ruiz, a seasoned CIA operative whose every move was calculated, every word measured, every action a potential risk. He was embedded deep within El Chapo's empire, living a life that was part charade, part nightmare. A man with no true identity, caught between the world of law enforcement and the unforgiving realm of the cartel. Ruiz had been recruited by the CIA for a singular purpose: to infiltrate the Sinaloa Cartel and gather intelligence on El Chapo's operations. It was a mission that seemed straightforward at first, but Ruiz quickly learned that the drug trade was far more complex and dangerous than he could have ever imagined. Chapter 1: The Initiation. The first time Ruiz met El Chapo, it was in a dimly lit room, hidden beneath the surface of an upscale hotel in Sinaloa. The cartel kingpin was seated at a large oak table, surrounded by a handful of his most trusted men. His eyes were cold, calculating, like a predator sizing up his prey. Ruiz had only just joined the cartel and was introduced as an experienced enforcer with a history of managing operations for smaller cartels. His demeanor was calm, even confident, but inside his heart pounded. He had been briefed on El Chapo's ruthlessness, his unyielding need for power. Ruiz knew that if he couldn't earn the trust of this man, his cover would be blown and his life would be forfeit. "Tell me about your work," El Chapo said, his voice low and unwavering as he leaned forward, eyes locked on Ruiz. Ruiz kept his composure, describing his experience with cartel logistics, his work handling shipments, and his ability to organize people under pressure. Every word was crafted with precision. He couldn't afford to slip up. "You've got the look of someone who knows how to get things done," El Chapo said, nodding slightly. "You'll fit in just fine." It was a simple approval, but in that moment, Ruiz understood something vital. To survive in the cartel, you had to be more than competent. You had to be indispensable. Chapter 2: The Double Life. As months passed, Ruiz climbed the ranks. His ability to stay calm under pressure, his sharp instincts, and his deep understanding of the drug trade made him a trusted ally in El Chapo's inner circle. He was tasked with overseeing the transportation of massive drug shipments across the US-Mexico border. At the same time, he was secretly reporting to the CIA, sending encrypted messages detailing the cartel's movements, operations, and weaknesses. But Ruiz was always careful. He never let his true allegiance show, never let the cartel see the subtle signals that marked him as a man living a double life. He formed relationships with key figures, trusted lieutenants and cartel soldiers, men who would eventually become his family in this dark world. And yet, with each passing day, he felt the weight of his choices pressing down on him. The Sinaloa Cartel wasn't just a business, it was a living, breathing entity, one built on fear, loyalty, and an iron grip on power. El Chapo ruled with an almost mythic presence, his decisions both decisive and brutal. And the more Ruiz saw, the more he questioned everything. Was he really helping the CIA by feeding them information? Or was he merely prolonging a war that would never end? Chapter 3: The Breaking Point. The line between agent and cartel member began to blur. Ruiz's relationships grew deeper, more personal. He found himself sitting in dark, smoke-filled rooms with men who were just as loyal to him as they were to El Chapo. There were quiet moments of camaraderie, laughter, and stories of lives lost in the pursuit of power. Ruiz had seen firsthand the cost of the cartel's reign. Families destroyed, innocents caught in the crossfire, the bodies piling up in the streets. One evening, as Ruiz sat in a bar in the heart of Culiacan, the city under the cartel's rule, he met a woman who would change everything. Isabel, a journalist who had spent years investigating the drug trade, was in town to report on the violence consuming the region. Her fearless pursuit of the truth had drawn her dangerously close to the cartel's grasp. Ruiz knew she was a risk, but there was something magnetic about her. Her intelligence, her unwavering dedication to exposing the darkness that enveloped Mexico, pulled him in like a tide. Their meetings were secretive, fleeting moments in a world that was anything but safe. They spoke of justice, of the law, of what it meant to fight for something greater than oneself. But each conversation was a reminder of the duality of his life. Isabel had no idea who he truly was, and Ruiz couldn't afford to let her find out. As the weeks passed, Ruiz found himself at a crossroads. He could feel the weight of his mission pulling him in one direction, while his growing feelings for Isabel threatened to drag him in another. But the decision was no longer his alone. The CIA, sensing that the cartel had expanded its operations beyond Mexico, ordered Ruiz to gather intelligence on a new drug route, one that would flood the U.S. with synthetic fentanyl, a drug that had already claimed thousands of lives. This operation was bigger than any of his previous assignments, and the stakes were higher than ever. Chapter 4: The Betrayal. It was during a high-stakes meeting that everything changed. El Chapo had summoned his inner circle to discuss the future of the cartel. Ruiz had been asked to coordinate the details of the new drug route. As he stood in the room with El Chapo and his top lieutenants, Ruiz felt a chill in the air. Something was off. There were rumors that the DEA had been closing in on the cartel's operations, and El Chapo's paranoia was beginning to show. "We have a rat," El Chapo growled, his eyes scanning the room. "Someone here is betraying us." Ruiz's pulse quickened. He knew this was his breaking point. He had to make a choice. Could he continue this charade, risk being discovered, or expose everything and ruin everything he had worked for? As the meeting ended, Ruiz received an encrypted message from the CIA. "We know you're close. Now is the time to act." But just as Ruiz prepared to move, the unthinkable happened. El Chapo turned to him. "Javier," he said, his voice calm, too calm. "I trust you, but I think I know what you've been doing." Ruiz's heart skipped a beat. His cover had been blown. The betrayal had come not from him, but from someone else, a mole within the CIA who had tipped off El Chapo. In that moment, Ruiz realized that he had no way out. The CIA was closing in on the cartel, and the cartel was closing in on him. Chapter 5: The Final Game. In the final, blood-soaked hours before El Chapo's capture, Ruiz made a split-second decision. He didn't turn on his friends, the people who had trusted him. Instead, he secretly provided the CIA with critical intelligence about the cartel's underground tunnels, the hidden drug routes, and the locations of the cartel's warehouses. This information led directly to El Chapo's eventual arrest, but not before the cartel executed a brutal counterstrike that nearly cost Ruiz his life. In the chaos of the final assault, Ruiz escaped, but he couldn't return to the CIA. He couldn't face Isabel, who had uncovered the truth about his identity and disappeared. The life he had built, the life he had known, was shattered. Chapter 6: The Phantom Agent. Years later, rumors of the elusive agent who had brought down El Chapo surfaced in whispered conversations. Some believed Ruiz had been killed. Others thought he had vanished into the shadows of Mexico's criminal underworld. But the truth was far more complicated. Agent Javier Ruiz was neither dead nor gone. He had become a ghost, a man living in the margins of society, constantly on the move, forever haunted by the choices he had made. And as the shadows of a new drug empire began to rise, one more insidious than the last, Agent Ruiz knew that his work was far from over. Somewhere in the unseen corners of the world, his next mission awaited. For Ruiz, the shadows were never far behind, and neither was the price of betrayal,